The crystal clinked against fine china as my cousin Preston boasted about his new ranch in Jackson Hole. My other cousin Cassandra countered with stories of her Tuscan vineyard. From across the mahogany table that cost more than some people's cars, my aunt's voice cut through the chatter. "Nora, you've been awfully quiet about your living situation." What my family didn't know was that while they were drowning in mortgage payments and living paycheck to paycheck in multi-million-dollar homes, I had just hit my first 8 figures in net worth. Hey everyone, I'm Nora Ashcroft, and today I'm telling you about my unconventional journey to financial independence and how appearing poor to my status-obsessed family turned out to be my greatest wealth-building strategy. If you've ever felt pressure to keep up with the Joneses, or in my case, the Ashcrofts, this story might change how you think about success forever. The Ashcrofts. Old California money, vineyard adjacent, and masters of what I call financial peacocking, the art of flaunting wealth you may or may not actually have. Our monthly family dinners were Olympic events in status competition. The newest luxury car, the most exclusive vacation property, the private schools with the longest waiting lists, these were the trophies my family members collected like Pokémon cards. And then, there was me. To understand how I became the black sheep, we need to go back 15 years. After graduating from Stanford with an MBA that my parents paid for, I'll acknowledge my privilege here. I did something unthinkable. Instead of taking a prestigious banking job in San Francisco, buying $1 million starter home I couldn't afford, and beginning my ascent up the socially acceptable ladder of visible success, I moved to a small apartment in an unfashionable neighborhood, drove a used Honda, and took a mid-level marketing job at a company nobody in my family had heard of. But what will people think? My mother had wailed over dinner. What people would think was exactly what I was counting on. Let me tell you about the Ashcroft family economics. From the outside, everything sparkles. The homes in wine country and Tahoe. The luxury cars. The vacations to places that don't appear on regular maps. But here's what I discovered in my 20s. Appearances can be expensive and deceptive. My cousin Preston, with his Jackson Hole ranch, leveraged to the hilt with a jumbo mortgage that keeps him up at night. My cousin Cassandra and her Tuscan vineyard, mostly owned by the bank, with maintenance costs that eat up most of her executive salary. My aunt and uncle with their sprawling estate, refinanced 3 times to maintain their lifestyle. You see, in my family, the appearance of wealth was valued far more than actual financial security. The irony is that the true wealth builders throughout history have often practiced the opposite approach. When I realized this disconnect, I made what I call the Ashcroft decision. I would opt out of the competition entirely. Instead, I would build real wealth slowly, methodically, and privately. While my family saw my lifestyle choices as failure, I was actually executing a long-term strategy. And this strategy had 4 main pillars that I'm going to share with you today. Pillar number 1, living dramatically below my means. When I graduated, I had no student debt thanks to my parents. My first job paid $78,000. Not bad for a 23-year-old. Most of my classmates immediately upgraded their lifestyles, getting nice apartments in trending neighborhoods and leasing luxury cars. I did the math. If I lived like my peers, I'd save maybe 5 to 10% of my income. But what if I lived like a college student for a few more years? I found a small apartment with a roommate in an uncool but perfectly safe neighborhood. I bought a used Honda Civic with 60,000 miles on it, cash. I furnished my place with second-hand items and kept my wardrobe minimal but professional. The result? I was saving over 60% of my take-home pay from day one. Pillar number 2, invisible investment growth. While my family members were buying visible status symbols, I was buying assets that nobody could see: index funds, small rental properties in emerging neighborhoods, and shares in the company where I worked. Every time I got a raise, I kept my lifestyle exactly the same and invested the difference. When I received bonuses, they went straight into investments. While my family saw a struggling, young professional, my net worth was doubling every few years. Pillar number 3, focusing on income expansion, not expense expansion. Most people increase their spending as their income grows. It's called lifestyle inflation. I did the opposite. I focused relentlessly on growing my income while keeping my expenses relatively fixed. I changed jobs strategically, negotiated aggressively for compensation, developed side businesses, and eventually started my own marketing consultancy that specialized in the tech sector. In 10 years, I went from making $78,000 to clearing over $500,000 annually. But looking at my apartment, car, and clothes, you'd never know it. To my family, this was embarrassing. To me, it was the plan working perfectly. Pillar number 4, the power of financial privacy. This might be controversial, but I believe that financial privacy is a superpower. When people, even family, don't know how much you make or how much you're worth, you're protected from both external pressure and your own ego. My family assumed I was doing okay, but not Ashcroft okay. This freed me from expectations to contribute to increasingly extravagant family gifts, invest in my cousin's questionable business ventures, or explain why I wasn't upgrading my lifestyle. Meanwhile, I was quietly building a multi-million-dollar investment portfolio that generated more passive income than some of my relatives' salaries. About 5 years ago, something interesting started happening in my family. The cracks in the facade began to show. First, it was small things: family vacations scaled back, complaints about property taxes, whispered conversations about refinancing options. Then came 2020, and the pandemic hit many of my family members hard. Business interests suffered. Real estate values fluctuated. Credit lines that had always been available suddenly weren't. At one particularly tense family dinner, after everyone had a few too many glasses of wine, my uncle turned to me with an unusual vulnerability in his eyes. "Nora," he said, "you might be the smartest one of all of us. You never played the game." That moment changed our family dynamic forever. Over the next year, several relatives approached me privately for financial advice. The same choices they had once mocked: my modest home, my reliable but unimpressive car, my lack of visible luxuries, were now seen in a new light. I wasn't struggling. I was free. Last year, I made a decision that shocked my family once again. I retired. At 38. Not to do nothing. I still run my consultancy part-time because I enjoy it, but because I no longer need to work for money. My investments generate more than enough for me to live comfortably for the rest of my life. And surprisingly, I still drive a Honda. Just a newer model. So, what can you learn from my unconventional journey? Here are 5 key takeaways. First, understand the difference between looking rich and being wealthy. They are not the same thing, and often they're inversely related. Second, calculate the true cost of status symbols. That luxury car isn't just the monthly payment. It's also what that money could have grown to if invested over decades. Third, find your financial tribe. You don't need to convince everyone of your approach. I had a small group of like-minded friends who supported my choices even when my family didn't understand. Fourth, be willing to be misunderstood. The path to financial independence often looks like failure in the early stages. Be comfortable with that discomfort. And finally, remember that true financial freedom isn't about what you can buy. It's about what you no longer have to sell. Your time, your energy, your authenticity. I still attend those monthly Ashcroft family dinners. The conversation has changed, though. My cousins talk less about acquisitions and more about what actually brings them joy. My aunt asks fewer pointed questions and more thoughtful ones. And me? I still sit quietly by the fireplace, sipping my iced tea. But now, when someone asks about my living situation, I just smile and say, I'm exactly where I want to be. The greatest plot twist in my story isn't that I built wealth while appearing not to. It's that in the end, freedom became more appealing.